Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's T-Level Construction On-Site and BSE introductory webinar. It is 12 o'clock, so we are going to make a start. If you haven't been able to attend today, hopefully you're able to access this via the recorded webinar, which we'll put on the website, and you can access via our GoToWebinar channel as well. So just moving on through the presentation. As we mentioned, this is an introductory webinar to T-levels. So we're just going to give you an overview of what T-levels are, where they sit within the scheme of things of qualifications and what area, and then we'll give a little bit of structure on our construction on-site and BSE pathways, and then we'll move on and finish off with some industry placement guidance as well. So where does a T-level sit? So with a T-level, it sits within three sort of bands, if you like, which is a government directive. One is A-levels, one is T-levels, which includes a significant industry placement, and then we know that the other is the apprenticeship. And there are obviously key differences between each one of those, and especially between the apprenticeships and the T-levels. T-levels, obviously, you have an 80% classroom-based product with a 20% in the placement or industry placement, where apprenticeships is the opposite and the other role reversal on that. So 80% on the job and then 20% off the job. Once learners complete one of the, whether it's A-levels, T-levels or apprenticeships, the progression routes are into either higher education, into employment, into an apprenticeship, obviously if they came from a T-level, or onto a higher or degree level apprenticeship as well. So how do T-levels differ? As we've already mentioned, the T-level is 80% classroom based and 20% industry placement based, where apprenticeships, we know that's it's vice versa. So it's 80% in the workplace and 20% off the job. Apprenticeships are paid work and suitable for learners that are employed in that position and demonstrating their vocational competence over a period of time. And then finally through an endpoint assessment, where a T-level demonstrates threshold competence, so they're doing a lot of training, a lot of skill development, which will be assessed similarly to an EP, if you like. It is a summative assessment model on a T-level as opposed to a formative assessment model that you may have been used to previously when we've run VRQ diplomas. T-levels are largely classroom-based, which we've mentioned, with a substantive industry placement, and T-levels offer a broader course content to the students. So this is where they do differ from our VRQs and from the apprenticeships essentially as well, because especially around the core component, there is enhanced content in there which will certainly benefit learners with their progressions. And the T-level is the new gold standard in technical education and the technical course of choice for learners in the future. And this is a big government drive. You know, these T-levels have got a lot of weight behind them, and everybody is pushing them forward. Moving on. So what T-levels are there? Just to give a quick overview, the routes are down the left-hand side there. For the purpose of this one, obviously, we're focusing on construction, in particular the on-site and BSE. And the on-site, obviously, as we know, Sitting Guilds were awarded that contract a couple of years ago. And for the BSE, we won that with our partner EAL. And on the next slide, you'll see that the partnership between Sitting Guilds and EAL has been paramount in the success of us being able to not just win the contracts, but deliver on producing the TQ content and the assessments for the T-levels to make them a fantastic product, that industry need and that you guys can deliver. So, we really do recognize that the importance of the relationship between Sitting Guilds and EAL. As mentioned previously, the partnership with Sitting Guilds and EAL, we've been able to secure the engineering and manufacturing T-levels in design, development, engineering, maintenance and installation, engineering, manufacturing, process control. So again, those are being developed between Sitting Guilds and EAL together. And for business administration, for the management and administration, Sitting Guilds were successful in securing that one as well. So, there's a lot of T-levels still to be decided. And we're hopeful that we'll be successful as well moving forward, because we've got great credentials in delivering these T-levels now, with the construction T-level being rolled out this year, September. So I'm just going to touch on the top part of this presentation because on this slide, because the next slide is a bit more visual and it's easy to explain the TQ content around it anyway. So just to give you an overview, approximately there's 1,800 hours on a T-level over 2 years. And learners will have to achieve all of the elements of the T-level program to be awarded the T-level certificate. And that includes everything that's in the TQ content below, plus industry placement and others as well, any license to practice. The subject content is set by the T-level employer panels, and then it was developed by us as an awarding organisation, and it was approved by the Institute. Throughout this whole process of the development of the actual qualifications and the assessments, employers have been at the heart of that with us. So we've been on this journey with those employers for over 12 months, supporting our development and validation, as has a lot of centres as well. So we needed to make it not just what industry wanted, but deliverable for centres as well. And that's why that was so important. So looking at the T-level programme, in particular these two elements of the TQ content and the industry placement. So just looking at the TQ, it's up to 1,400 hours again over the 2 years, and they'll do the core component within the TQ, and they'll do the occupational specialism, and we'll move on to those shortly for construction and BSE. Then you've got the other requirements, which could be anything, which could be license to practice or CSCS or any other elements that's required by to get learners through an FE program. And then you've got the English and math element as well. Then you've got the 20% industry placement, which is around about 315 to 350 hours or 45 days. And that's where learners can further develop practical skills for employment, but enhance their knowledge as well. And the industry placements must be meaningful to contribute to the learner's development and complement what they are learning during the TQ and during their time in college as well. So the industry placement is paramount. And it's a good opportunity for employers as well to have this significant industry placement. It's a great opportunity to really give learners a real good experience of work in our sector. And hopefully, you know, that 20%, the 315 hours will allow that, and hopefully be an opportunity for learners to showcase their skills to potential employers once moving on to apprenticeships. So just looking a little bit more at the construction and BSE, just to introduce you to the team first and foremost. So my name is Jason Howe. Maybe should have had this slide at the beginning, but never mind. And I'm a technical advisor for construction at City and Guilds. And my details are on the screen there. I also have my colleague Rob Malander, who's on with us today, and Rob is a technical advisor for our BSE portfolio at City and Guilds. Others that you'll hear and get familiar with moving forward, we've got Alison Whittle, who is our post-16 technical advisor at City and Guilds, and Alison supports us a little bit further down the line when we start coming into curriculum planning and the teaching and learning and getting more into the detail of assessment. Also, the support we have from ERL is through our colleague Mike Scarrett, and Mike is a product specialist at EAL. And again, he's on leave at the minute, but you'll become more familiar with Mike as he attends all of our webinars and our networks and our events for BSE and construction on site, actually. So we just need to recognise that support as well. Then we have our industry managers, Naz Lewis Humphrey, who is the industry manager for construction, and Celine Visram, who is the industry manager for BSE and one of our lead industry managers as well. And they've been paramount in securing that employee support when we've been developing and validating our products and the TQ and the assessments for the T levels as well as the GSEMs and all of the other supportive material that wraps around as well. So just recognising the significant contribution that you may not be familiar with those two individuals, but they do a lot behind the scenes to support the development of the T-level product. How can you get all the information you need? The best way is to sign up for our email alerts, our T-level email alerts. And at the bottom of the T-level website page on the City and Guilds website, you'll see this box. This will be familiar. Please just input your details as much as possible, and through email alerts and comms and e-bulletins and stuff, you'll get all the relevant information to sign up to, whether it's face-to-face networks, events on the road, or webinars or virtual networks that myself, Rob, Mike, Alison will be delivering moving forward. So please get signed up for that. And you can follow the link on the page there. It takes you straight to that page. Just some of the employers that we've been working with, we just wanted to showcase, and this is a very, very small selection of the employers that have supported the BSE and Onsite construction T-level development, whether it's the TQ or the assessments or the GSEMs. And there's many more employers that we need to thank and showcase as well, but that's just a selection of some of the employers that are also part of our employer and industry board, again supporting not just the development of T-level products, but all of our products across our portfolios for construction and BSE. So looking at construction, how is the T-level for construction on-site structured? So we have the on-site construction core, and that's the same outline content based on that core that's in every other construction T-level, whether it's the design, survey and plan, or whether it's the BSE. So it's based off the same outline content. Yes, the design, survey and plan and BSE will be slightly enhanced as they have additional content in their core. The construction core or the construction on-site core is assessed by 2 externally set exams and 1 employer set project. And those are assessed in assessment windows, again, which, information will be coming out on those, and you'll be getting more familiar with those as the year move on and we introduce you to more content on the T-level. Running alongside that, the learners will obviously select one of the occupational specialisms, whether it's carpentry, joinery, plastering, painting and decorating, or bricklaying. And those are assessed, usually at the end of year 2, by an externally set and moderated practical synoptic assignment. And that is a synoptic assignment that will assess threshold competence across the range of what the learners will have been learning for the 2 years prior to that assessment window. And that is how the construction on-site T-level is structured. I'm now going to hand you over to Rob, who's going to run through the rest of the presentation. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks a lot, Jason. So now we're going to look at the structure of the building services. So I'm Rob Mallender, Technical Advisor for Building Services for City and Guilds. I've been working closely with this T-level development. So again, as the construction, the building services has got a core. It's very similar to the construction core with regards to content, with a few learning outcomes extra sort of tagged on at the end. So because of that, we actually got this assessed by 2 externally set and marked exams and an employer set project. So 11 of 14 learning outcomes are the same as the construction core, and then we've got 3 which are standalone building services elements of that core. So in conjunction with the core, centres will be delivering occupational specialisms. And we've got a choice of occupational specialisms again within building services. With regards to occupational specialisms, they have to choose either a standalone occupational specialism from Group A, so one of either the electrotech engineering, the electrical, electronic equipment, gas engineering, or protection systems. They can choose one of those, or they can choose one of the pairings, one of the combination occupational specialisms from Group B. So paired together are plumbing and heating and vent, and refrigeration and air conditioning. So they choose either one from Group A or one of the pairings from Group B. So similar to the construction ones, the occupational specialisms are assessed by a synoptic assignment at the end of the programme. So usually, we'd be looking at core assessment end of year 1 and then occupational specialism end of year 2. So we'll move on to the next slide. And just on this slide, we've just got some of the codes you would use for registration. So really at this sort of level, we're starting the introductory webinar we're looking at today, probably the useful thing on there is the code numbers for the actual qualification. So you can search those on the City and Guilds website. If you're looking for any handbooks or sample assessments, you just have to put the 8710 code into our webpage, cityandguilds.com. And that will bring up the actual qualification page where you will find all the information you need. There's qualification handbooks, sample assessments, etc. That's all there for you to be able to just take a look at, and there's lots of good information in the course handbook with regards to registration, etc. Similarly, for the on-site construction, it's 8711 webpage. Same process, same sample assessments and qualification handbook is on there. So well worth downloading that and reviewing that, perhaps as part of a team. If you are looking to register, when we do look at registration, you will have to register the core first before the occupational specialism in the process. We're going to be running future webinars all around that, about all the approval process, the registration process. So it's probably a little bit of a bridge too far today. So we're not going to read through all the codes. It just shows you the codes there for the BSE, some of the pairings, as you'll see, and some of the standalone specialisms. So you've got to choose one of those from the right-hand page there. So now let's have a look at industry placement. So industry placement is included in every T level. It's to develop the practical skills. So it's no longer about just delivering a qualification in a training centre, college, etc. It's about developing them on site as well as much as possible. So it's got to last a minimum of 315 hours. We've got to have industry placement for each learner to complete the T level. And there's a lot of information out there with regards to the Skills Funding Agency, National Apprenticeship Service, and they're working with industry and providers on how we develop this industry placement. Obviously, for this year, we're still a pilot program, so it's going to be quite new for the September 21 providers who have already started delivering this year, and that will develop hopefully until September 22, which a lot of you are probably listening to today's webinar are going to be looking at, or maybe even beyond. So if we move on, when we look at industry placement, a lot of useful information is actually on the gov.uk website. And the reason behind that is, you know, City and Guilds themselves have not really developed, well, they haven't developed the industry placement. So City and Guilds have developed that technical qualification, which sits in T level. The rest of the development is outside the remit of City and Guilds. So today we're signposting you really as to where to go and get the information. But there's a lot of information on that website. You can go there, you can view, there's guidance for your employers, there's guidance for your learners, how to attract employers, etc., how to get your incentive payment of £1,000 now as an employer. So well worth a look. And there's a link there on the bottom of the slide, which you'll get on the recording after today's webinar. So if we move on, we'll look at, you know, how industry placement can be evolved and useful tips for working on industry placement. When we're looking for an employer, obviously a lot of the guidance coming out there on the industry placement is they've got to be a reputable employer. They've got to offer a safe working environment, have things like an induction, offer relevant tasks and projects for students. So the key is, you know, on the gov.uk website, which we've just signposted you to, there's almost requirements there on industry placement. So what that industry placement should cover. So you can go through those with potential employers, because I think the key there is making sure they're getting the right type of work whilst they're on that industry placement, and it's going to be beneficial. We've got to be progressing these people into industry as much as possible, and this will support that. So that's industry placement. So if we move on, let's have a look at some of the support material we've got out there for T levels at the moment. So we're working with Hodder Education, who are our publisher nowadays. We've got rid of the cityandguilds.com bookshop, and the Hodder Education produce all our building services and construction books, basically. They've developed a core building services book and a core on-site construction book. What they've also done is created mapping grids to the existing books. Excuse me. There's a link there to the Hodder webpage where you can find all the relevant information on the books and all the resources which Hodder provides. Some great stuff, you know, whiteboard material the teacher can teach from, ebooks for the candidates. So some really good resources there. They're coming out spring, so they will be available for September 22 delivery. So let's have a look at some of the other support and guidance. So a lot of support and guidance is on the actual T levels web page. So as you can see from the little screen grab there, we've got a dedicated T level page on the cityandguilds.com website. There's loads of resources on there. Delivery resources, all these webinars. We've got all last year's webinars we ran around curriculum planning, which we're going to be doing again this year. They're all on there. Provider focus groups are on there. Employer industry boards and how your employees can get involved with that. But what is probably very useful on there at the moment, if you're potentially living from September 2022, is the delivery resources. So what we would generally call smart screen material, you know, your PowerPoints, your handouts, your schemes of work, lesson plans, etc. They're all free. And that resource is now on the cityandguilds.com T-levels page under the resources tab there in the middle, as you can see on the screen grab. So there's a link there on the slide as well, but well worth it. You know, don't go away developing your own resources around the core when we've got all these free resources there. So the actual occupational specialism resources, we've still got the books, we've got the mapping grids to the Hodder books. The free resource on the website is all around the core because we're mindful, you know, it's a total new outlook as to what we're used to delivering within construction, building services, quals. So we've supported it now adequately with some great resource. So that's mostly it for the presentation. What we would like you to do, whether you're listening to this live or whether you're listening to this as part of a recording, if you wouldn't mind just completing our little survey there on the bottom of the slide, it helps us develop these support materials and these support webinars moving forward. So it's only a couple of minutes for you to complete it, just to let us know how today's gone, how you found today's webinar, and really asking the question, what do you want from us moving forward? We're going to be providing adequate amounts of support events to get you ready for September 2022 delivery. So by completing that survey, it just lets us shape those events into what you need as a centre. So thank you very much for attending today. Thanks for listening to Jason and myself's presentation. If you need anything else, our contact details are on the previous slides. Feel free to come to us direct. If you'd like any support within your centre or you've got any ideas for future events, please share them with us. Apart from that, I think we're going to close for today. And just from me, thanks for attending.